kind of, I don't say screwed himself. I think he announced his fight way too early for no reason, no benefit at all to announcing it as soon as he did, right before a light heavyweight fight that could have decided a contender. I just didn't get his timing in this. And this was essentially the worst case scenario. When I broke this down Friday, I said, look, the worst thing that could happen for Dana is one of these guys, Santos or Teixeira, has a great performance. And now suddenly we have a challenger controversy. Well, Teixeira did look great. And as he said, 5 in a row, right? He's right where he needs to be. He's kicking some ass. And now you have a controversy where there didn't have to be one if you hadn't announced this fight. I think jumping the gun a little bit early. I want to make it very clear, I didn't have any objections to Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz. I think that's an entertaining fight. I do get how it's a setup for the Jon Jones fight. I don't know why you don't just leap to Jon Jones right now. I don't know why you need to have him win the 205-pound belt ahead of time. I'm going to say very dangerous guy. I really don't understand it. So what would I do if I could wave a magic wand and make all parties agree? I think I would book Izzy versus Teixeira. I'd do that. I don't want to see these guys who right now have a ton of juice, a ton of momentum. That's Israel Adesanya and Glover Teixeira. Wait out until next March or April. I don't want to see that happen. I'd like to see Glover Teixeira and Israel Adesanya fight in January rather than have them wait. Yeah, I know it's not for a title, but it's a big money fight. It's a lot of cash for both guys. I want to see Glover Teixeira get paid. I want to see Israel Adesanya get paid. I want to see the winner get a shot at 205 or maybe get a shot at Jon Jones, depending on what the deal is. Maybe depending on who wins. Glover Teixeira has never called out Jon Jones. They fought already at 205 pounds. But here's what I think is that it's hard to sell Glover Teixeira versus Jon Jones because he beat him up pretty handily, if you remember that fight. I don't think you can sell that. You can sell him versus Jan Blachowicz for sure. So I think there's different results depending on who wins. I think you have Izzy fight Teixeira in January. If Izzy wins, he gets Jon Jones. If Teixeira wins, he gets Jan Blachowicz. But both guys get what they want with a win. It doesn't hold up any titles. It doesn't string these guys along when they're both, once again, red hot and have a lot of momentum. Momentum is everything in this sport. Who's hot right now? What have you done for me lately? That is the motto of the UFC, not just with the UFC, but with the fans.
So guys, it looks to me like Conor McGregor is going backwards, and I don't know why. I'm genuinely just wondering why. Give you an example. He's getting ready to fight Poirier, a fight that Poirier has wanted for a meaningful amount of time. Great, Conor's going to give it to him. Cool move. But he's also saying, Conor, that he would like to fight Max Holloway. And he's also saying he would like to do the trilogy with Nate Diaz. And it just seems as though, for whatever reason, he's going back. Now, a lot of athletes do that. You could say that Dustin's doing that Max would like to do that. But the athletes that want to go back are trying to right a wrong. Conor McGregor won those contests. I just don't know that I've ever seen it before, particularly from a top guy. I don't know that I've ever seen a top guy actively trying to pursue old opponents that he beat. I just don't know that I've seen it. It would seem as though he would want to go forward. The Poirier fight, particularly if it was for a championship, I mean, you could see how we would get here. The mere fact that Conor likes Dustin Poirier and wants to give him this opportunity, or maybe there's a little bit more where Conor thought, that wasn't all that hard of a night for me and I don't think it's going to be any harder. Whatever the reason is, you're going to do some rematches every now and then. But to be going into a rematch, talking about doing yet another rematch and parlaying that into a third rematch, just seems as though you'd want some fresh blood. You've got Chandler in there all of a sudden. Gaethje's floating around. Tony Ferg's been calling him out for years. I mean, there's some really big matches that are also very meaningful and exciting and would offer some new parity. And not for us fans, man. Conor Mania is a real thing. We're coming along, right? Done, sold, in. I'm talking about from Conor's perspective. I just don't know that I've ever seen this. And it surprises me a little bit. What piece of psychology am I missing here? Or have I just hit it on the head? That this isn't about giving guys an opportunity or trying to make a big and meaningful fight. Conor liked something he felt, thinks this is an easy night out. Man, I support that theory. You ever run into an athlete that's trying to sound like a real tough guy? Talk about his opponent coming up. He says, I want him at his best. I hope he's at his best. That's the one I want to beat. What a dumb thing to say. Give me the worst guy in the biggest arena for the largest paycheck. That's the guy I want to fight. Floyd Mayweather approach 101. The worst guy that we can sell to the audience for the biggest paycheck. That is who I want to fight. And sometimes that's going to be a really hard guy. Every now and then you got to step in there with Sugar Shannon. Every now and then you got to draw De La Hoya out of the hat. But the rest of the time, you're fighting Fernando Vargas's of the world. I mean, that's the way this game is played. So I wouldn't have a big problem if Conor was doing it, but I am a little bit surprised from a competitive standpoint. I mean, in all fairness, Max Holloway's a 45-pounder. I understand that Max would move up for the fight, but that's not what we're discussing. I'm discussing Conor pursuing fights with guys he's already beaten. I don't know that I've seen anything quite like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's odd to see when a fighter is, happy to take a fight or happy to do a certain thing, and then, Dana comes out and says, oh, they didn't take the call, they didn't want to fight, or, spins a certain narrative. And I guess what's more odd is that with you, Dana's always been super praiseworthy. I think because of you as a champion, I think also because of Australia as a market. So it just seemed a little bit baffling to go with this take. Why do you think you went with the whole Rob doesn't want to fight narrative, this time?
It's hard to say. That's why I guess the biggest thing that comes to mind when I'm thinking about the whole thing is confusion. It's I guess the only thing that I can point to is that he wanted that Yarn fight to happen, which makes sense. And yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. Unless he really did take my words the wrong way, in which case then it is what it is.
I think the other funny thing about saying that, you didn't want to fight is when you look at your resume, you were fighting killers in the division before you were even champion. It kind of speaks for itself. If we were a fly on the wall, how would you sort of describe yourself as a, negotiator or a guy when it comes to, accepting fights?
Does it, like you guys just said it, does it look like I say no to fights?
Fought Yoel Romero twice, so
yeah, look at especially since that second time I didn't need to fight him because he missed weight. It's one of those things that I've never said anything. I've never said no to a fight. You can look at my lineup, like I've never said no to a fight. Look at the last two fights I've had. Like it's those things that like I've had almost nothing to gain if you look at it in a light of just moving up the ladder and playing the game, if you would. But it is what it is. It is what it is. My priorities stand straight. I'm going to enjoy Christmas and see the birth of my new child, and I'm very, very excited for that. And then whatever happens after it, happens after it. I can't change it. I can't control it, so I don't care.
Talking to Randy Couture, UFC legend, of course, champ at 205 and heavyweight. Being a coach on the first Ultimate Fighter, that kind of Wild West attitude of, because we both worked for Spike, and I of course worked for them a little bit later. Yep. What did they tell you? Okay, we're going to try this out and see if it sticks. Were you given a lot of direction about when to do and how to do? The format now is pretty solid. We know what we're going to see. And
yeah.
You guys had no idea. What was it like getting involved in that project in the first place?
Well, it was a lot of fun. And obviously I had a vested interest, Nate Corey, Chris Lieben, those were guys I trained with at Team Quest, and we're happy to get them into that show. Happy to be a coach and get the nod and be involved. I don't think I was their first choice, honestly. I think they were looking at some other guys, and then I ended up getting the call to come in. Honestly, we were told this was it. They had spent a lot of money. We earned up to $40 million trying to change the image of the UFC and get it into the mainstream. They spent $11 million to get that show on Spike TV. Spike was the only one that had the balls to put that on regular television. And they said, this is it. If this doesn't work, we're going to be out. I mean, that was
no pressure.
Honestly, yeah. What honestly they said, the format was up for grabs. We developed a lot of those challenges. Chuck and I, were the ones that gave them ideas for how to do these challenges, how to test these guys in other ways besides in that cage and fighting to stay on the show. So we were winging it, a lot of it. We were literally winging it, and it came out amazing and obviously changed the sport and the landscape for all of us going forward. So it was a fun thing to be a part of. That was a great group of guys. Yeah, I enjoyed it. We just had the 15-year anniversary of that last year, and that photo that we reenacted from the original cast to what we look like now was pretty cool and pretty fun.